I tried looking up the word itself.
The top of every mountain is the bottom of another. The top of every mountain is the bottom of another. Run for cover, you'll discover some will thrive and others suffer. Cause the top of every mountain is the bottom of another. Ooh, don't wait, don't hesitate. Better speak the truth, let it resonate and let it detonate and get blown away. Till you keep on rising to a higher place. Can't stop, won't stop, don't stop coming till we hit the top. Gotta keep pushing till the day I make it. Since they won't give it to me, then I got to take it. The pain today is power tomorrow. Keep on coming, but you'll never catch me running. Cause I won't bow down. No matter what they say, I wouldn't do it any other way. Keep on coming, but you'll never catch me running. Cause I won't bow down. The top of every mountain is the bottom of another. The top of every mountain is the bottom of another. Not enough, they keep us smothered. Lower class, never the upper. Cause the top of every mountain is the bottom of.
Good evening, USA Wolf Squadron. This is your Wolf Commander Wolf 10. We're back with another Real Millennials stream tonight. And this is going to be an interesting topic tonight because, depending on how this night is going to go, we're probably going to fumble this one. We're going to try to wing it as well. But, yeah, we're challenging preconceptions and misconceptions and misdirects and biases, I suppose. But it's under the title Preconceptions, I suppose. That's why you don't see nothing in the description, because we have no idea what the hell Dom is talking about when it comes down to
Yeah, we had a whole conversation behind the scenes where we were trying to figure out what kind of preconceptions and in what context preconceptions, and it's the whole bunch of
what preconception is tonight, ladies and gentlemen.
And then we were starting to talk about dick girls, and then we had to start.
Oh my God.
For real.
Oh, dark.
That was my fault.
Conversation usually goes. And we don't even have the smokes or the drinks. But dang it, Dom, you gotta really think real long and hard on these.
Define your terms, man. Define your terms. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, we going Bible black or we going angel black?
That's one of the reasons why we get fumbled around on this show so many damn times. Because he don't always have a structure to this stuff. And already he talking in the private chat. Oh, that's you, Leia. Damn.
Wait. I was responding to a comment he made.
And then on top of that, he ain't got no mic.
Oh God. Dom must think we are.
You know, I'm gonna start making a rule. You gotta have a mic.
Tyson?
A working
microphone.
Oh.
Well, we could have had fun with Mike Tyson.
Oh, good Lord.
Paul Tyson, did you really just take a fall?
Maybe about 30 years ago, I could have had fun with him. I don't think I could have quite as much fun today.
Oh, we're really off to this. We're really getting off.
So the man prong didn't do anything for you, Dalton?
It's what we do. It's the name of the game. Go off top, and then we finally find our way back to the topic. It's
Dom
chaos.
was probably sitting back. This.
As I was saying, but no, we're talking about preconceptions, misconceptions, and all kind of bullshit people thought about back in the days, and including us amateurs when we were younger. You know, we had our own little misconceptions and preconceptions, I guess. So I'm here with the Authenticator.
Hello and good evening, everyone. This should be interesting and not totally not a clusterfuck or anything.
Like all our other shows have been so far. He's given us these very challenging topics that we don't really ever think about.
Well, it's an issue of defining terms, and also in what context is the term being used, because I can almost guarantee what happened was Dom thought all he would have to say is misconceptions, and then everything would sort itself out. But he didn't outline any of his thought process, and that probably is what the problem was.
He throws in a quote from Duckman. You still need to watch
Comedy
that show.
also challenges a person's preconceptions, misconceptions, as said by Duckman. Thanks, Dom.
That's a
Trying to narrow it
censorship
down.
thing.
I guess we could talk about the misconceptions and preconceptions of censorship in itself, the highs and the lows, and the thought process of people.
Well, I mean,
thought of that.
censorship being what it is the premise that if we just ban all the bad stuff, no bad thing will ever happen. But in
Wait,
reality,
full circle to Tifa's
And
tits.
they forgot 5-year-olds actually watch Beavis and Butthead.
I was one of those 5-year-olds once
Yeah,
upon a not so very long ago.
Yeah, I think
One of
everyone
Black
else has already
Mirror's-
talked about censorship ad nauseum at this point when that thing was already crazy.
Well, the thing is, there was a Black Mirror episode that was directed by Jodie Foster of all people, talking about censorship and how it affects the child's mind when you censor things, and it was an interesting way of showing what a child perceives the world when so long of her toddler years she's been living in a world where everything is closed off and masked off in front of her. For example, she started cutting herself, very so desensitized of violence that she cut herself that she doesn't even feel no pain for that matter. Which I don't know how that works, but it was an interesting concept to behold.
I think I'd come across one theory. They said that the reason why they did censorship is because they didn't want the kids to try out what they saw on TV.
And since she spoke, the humble survivor is Humble Marty.
Oh, hello, I'm Humble Marty, and I write things.
And draw things, too.
I can also talk
Oh.
way off topic and go on tangents. Just a word of warning.
You do that? When?
When you get into a subject I can be very passionate about, and luckily I have specific interests, so I'm glad I can be concise about the preconception part.
Say at the time about the lemmings, is it?
If one wanted to have a really fun preconception, some people didn't know what Spinosaurus aegypticus looked like until they ran him through a 3D scanner.
We have the Warrior of Light, Final Fantasy Fan 12.
Greetings to viewers and my fellow Final Fantasy fans, this is Final Fantasy Fan 12 and welcome back to another live stream of the UN Spacey Wolf Squadron, and today we are back with another episode of The Real Millennials talking about preconceptions and misconceptions.
Jesus Christ, dude, you all in on a topic that we don't have no business talking about.
What?
He said, look, it's my job, it's stupid, but I damn well better commit to it.
Forward before having the evidence for its truth or usefulness.
Well, since you're reading that, you might as well read his intro. The Hound of the South, Dominic Powell.
I could find the thing.
I can find it. I got it. Good morning, evening,
Find it.
or afternoon, everyone. This is the Hound of the South, Dominic Powell, and hope you enjoyed this latest episode of The Real Millennials.
Sounds like some cartoon announcer for a straight-to-DVD Disney movie. Like,
Sounds like a pimp.
Hey, it came out clear and smooth.
Sure did, buttery smooth. We have the lovely Leia Val, Leia Plus Size.
Good evening, everyone. This is Leia Plus Size, your lovely Lady of Valor. And all I can say is welcome to what is probably going to be a very interesting conversation about misconceptions and perceptions. You know how we roll, so just sit back, buckle up for the ride, and let's
Quit
just
being a
see
wussy.
how this goes.
And quit being a wussy.
Abandon hope, all ye who enter here, of any coherency from this point forward.
I guess one
That-
misconception I had came across one time, and well, not necessarily conception, but yeah, misconception, or at least a mis an assumption, mostly, was the one time when I worked at the movie theater, and this girl, was having a conversation alongside her boyfriend with us, both me and my coworker who was working with us at the time, and she thought that we watched the movies for free, despite the fact that we get to watch the movies for free, or like she think we were watching the movies on downtime. It's like you must really like watch all the movies on your downtime, and I don't know why, but somehow that just made me laugh out loud. Because there's never been an instance where we actually step inside the movie theater, except that one time when we were completely done with our work and already had clocked out, and like Mother was still playing, and we decided to catch the tail end of Mother, which was fucking hilarious, because at that time they were still sitting there watching the movie, and I fucking scared them.
Mother.
I standing behind them and
Mother.
remained really quiet. And then when the movie was done, I said, "The end," and they all of them jumped. But no, I laughed because I was like, oh man. She's like, "Is that supposed to be funny?" She kind of took offense, but I was like, no, 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 no. It just made me laugh. That's all. I don't mean to laugh like that. But
a friend of mine used to be a projectionist back in the days when they actually needed a manual operator for the projection or the projector, and he used to hate his shift because he would always wind up getting stuck being the projectionist for the worst movies. I'm pretty sure it honestly gave his brain PTSD, because now whenever he sees a movie, he like tries his damnedest to be the most charitable to it possible, and I'm like, who hurt you? And then he just goes on talking about like the projectionist story, and I'm like, oh, I see. You've basically got bad movie PTSD from all the years of not being able to shut it off.
So he likes to project his issues.
Wah, 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 wah.
I had
saw that coming.
I had that concession too for a time. That's what I'm a ticklish kind of person when I share like-mindedness with somebody sometimes, and they they bring up something that I thought about too myself, and coming to the conclusion, or at least like coming to the revelation in itself, just makes me laugh, because either it ended in disappointment or just underwhelming results at times. Sometimes I get lucky and get the best results, or come to the tail end of a great thing that I was very curious about, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like, if somebody had the exact same thought, it makes me tickle, because I was like, you know what? One time I had that thought too. I didn't get a chance to tell her that because they had already left it, and my friend just looked at me like he's ready to scold me for a laugh. I was like, I can't help it sometimes. I'm just ticklish like that, figuratively speaking.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess I could talk about work misconceptions to some degree.
No intro? Okay.
Did everybody get their intro?
Oh, I forgot about you, didn't I? A stranger danger, dark stranger. I thought I called you.
Good morning, and thank you for having me on this, whatever we're going to be doing.
Okay,
I know it
13
sounds
minutes,
like Leia wants to get some stuff off her chest about Superman, so I vote Leia can share her chest with us.
Hey,
Okay, dark.
Phrasing, sir, phrasing.
I got one. I got a
Oh.
preconception and a misconception about Superman. The preconception is the fact that people think that he's perfect. No, he's not. The misconception is he's boring and too powerful. No, he is not.
I completely agree, and I guess as Billboard would say, we're in this room now. The thing people don't understand, and it baffles the fuck out of me, is that Superman is actually quite limited in his range of powers, barring some really weird Silver Age wackiness, which isn't which isn't particularly germane to the thing. The thing people don't seem to understand is Superman's powers are just the powers of an ordinary man taken to like the platonic extreme. One of my favorite quotes about Superman comes from an episode of Superman the Animated Series where Dr. Fate teamed up with him, and the Eldridge being Carcool looks at Superman and he goes, "You are strong for a mortal, but a mortal is all you are. You do not have the tools to defeat me." And I feel like people, for whatever fucking reason, even though there are literal deities in the DC universe that have dozens of powers that Superman never has, they think he's a god. And I'm just like, guys, there are literal deities in this setting that have actual like reality warping and weather control and energy projection abilities, you know, the kinds of things you would actually attribute to a god. Superman doesn't have any of those powers. Hell, even Martian Manhunter is more like a god than Superman when you consider that he has telekinesis and can read minds and shit, which is something that I would expect that I would expect a basic understanding of a god to be. And this is where I get a lot of people mad at me because I say that because Dr. Manhattan can manipulate the fundamental energies of matter and warp reality by that metric, he's actually closer to something resembling a meaningful definition of a god than Superman is.
Yeah, and if we're gonna like compare Superman to everyone else in the Marvel universe, then yeah, but in DC, he's not all that powerful.
Well, there's that, but even in the Marvel universe, there are literal deities that have powers that are more classically associated with a deity, reality bending, reality manipulation, weather manipulation, and so on, that Superman cannot do. God damn it!
If I may, the problem tends to be, though, as a simple phrase, is too many cooks in the kitchen. In this case, it's the writers. Superman and everything he can and can't do is always determined by the whim of whoever is in control of the pen. And that's also the problem. Like, there's just too many narratives and takes. And it's always fluctuating.
Yeah, that's stupid. There needs to be some kind
master,
of
like a set in stone structure.
Yeah, there needs to be an editorial consistency, like a world Bible, so that we know, okay, these are the powers that Superman. And to be fair, this happens a lot less now in the modern day because people have basically retconned out most of Superman's wackier Silver Age days, which is probably a good thing, all things considered.
It's a multiverse thing. They've made it totally multiverse.
Well, yeah, but let's not get into the problem of
the
too many goddamn
Golden Age.
Too many
was a little wackier.
Yeah, too many event comics and rebooting the universe every 5 fucking minutes. That's another issue that DC has and Marvel has too. They need to stop rebooting the goddamn universe and just play the ball where it lies for at least a decade or so before rebooting it again.
Which even when us at our current problem, we're way past the point where a world book or a lore master could really be useful because nobody wants to try a set in stone the bullshit we get today.
Well, no, yeah, that's what I was just about to bring up because we got for DC we got 2 omnibuses of DC Who's Who, which is the thing that DC used to do back in I think it was during the 80s or 90s when they explained a whole encyclopedia of every single character in the DC universe by far in the 80s. But the other thing, let me get that. It's right on my shelf.
Right, dude.
Is the DC encyclopedia. This thing specifically, which I actually had, which it doesn't really explain every single character, but most of them are in here.
Okay, hold on. Don't turn off your camera.
What's up?
What are you up?
No.
Why do you not want him to turn off the camera, Dart? Okay.
No, I was just hoping you could show off some more of the book and read it off, but okay.
He wants you to show off more of the book of Final.
Oh dear.
But no, that's fine. That's fine. It's probably a little lost because.
Point being, both the base 2 needs to scale things back to, I personally would scale it back to the 90s, because in the 90s they both had relatively stable multiverse concepts that didn't
Early
shit the
90s.
bed every 5 minutes. Yeah, like,
And before the death of Superman, because
well, obviously, but point being, back in the 90s, there was at least an attempt to essentially canonize everything in certain ways, or at least to spin the things that couldn't be canon anymore so that they could at least have, lip service to them every now and again. Whereas now, basically, whenever a writer fucks something up, because these modern day writers will inevitably fuck things up because they don't have any care for the universes they're playing in or the characters in them, but whenever a writer fucks something up now, that's fine. We'll just reboot the entire universe's continuity. It'll be fine. We'll just fix it in an editorial. It's like, no, you can't just turn the universe off and back on again every time one of y'all makes a mistake. You need to actually stop making the mistakes in the fucking first place, if you fucking please. And if you,
Dom said something in the private chat. Speaking of Silver Age comics, to say briefly of the subject matter is back then people used to look down on it, seeing that period of comics as childish and naive. However,
Oh, God.
as times went on, this conception of the Silver Age changed as they see it's not what they thought of it as or were told by their peers.
Okay, since Dom is already setting me up for this inevitable rant, I will go on the inevitable rant that is going to spark off in me. Because
Everybody run now!
Here's the thing about the comics are for kids crap from the Silver Age in the 60s. That was a thing that was forced from the top down, because there was a censorious family values asshat by the name of Frederick Wortham who thought that, and I'm not even making this up, he thought that because he, a professional psychologist, had patients who read comic books, that it was the comic books that turned his patients into mental patients, and not, I don't know, comics are the most popular medium in the country right now because we just got done fighting a war in which superhero comics played a massive role in troop morale and shit. But no, Frederick Wortham, the anti-art asshat, wrote a book called The Seduction of the Innocent, in which he espoused a theory that basically said that we can't show certain things in comic books because kids will read them and blah 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 blah. And long story short, it led to this thing called the Comics Good Authority. So the Silver Age isn't kid stuff, quote unquote, because the writers just were targeting their books at kids. The Silver Age was kid stuff because it was forced to be, because the Comics Code Authority dictated that it be so. So I don't, and this is the thing that bothers me about this. It would be one thing if we all blamed Frederick Wortham for the stupid, overly censorious, moralistic crap that he pulled. But no, what happened instead in a lot of the cases is people that grew up in the 60s, in the forced kid stuff Silver Age era, now think that that's what comics always were and always need to be, and that's why comics aren't a respectable artistic medium, when in actuality, it is the very same overly traditionalistic fuckwits like Frederick Wortham who forced comics to become kid stuff in the first place because they didn't like the fact that kids and adults could read the same comic, goddammit.
He's not wrong. That's really how the Comics Code got started. It was this guy. It was the Salem witchcraft trials. It was panic. Oh my God! If these youths read this, they'll become awful criminals.
Won't somebody please think of the children?
We're not your babysitters, bitch. Shut the fuck up.
That backfired really quickly.
Yeah.
That's why,
considering they found more creative ways to literally get away with showing murder.
Which is why
Stan Lee did this.
Only
Which is
Yes.
why the Silver Age, even at its worst, still managed to be good because there were writers working for the comic companies
Can I
that
even
were good
mention-
at telling interesting stories outside of the bounds of the comics code.
Can I even mention the mere sight of artistic nudity could be misperceived as pornography?
Yeah.
Yep.
Thanks, Twitch.
Yeah, and speaking of the inheritors of fucking Frederick Wortham and company,
Not final. This was way before Twitch was even conceived. There was always that misconception that even if it was like a statue or
there
or a
there
monument
was a
or
there
anything
was a
that
pope by the name of
there was a very short-sighted misconception that it was promoting pornography.
there was a pope by the name of Pius IX who, because of the way the Roman Catholic Church came about, being through Rome, a bunch of the famous pagan statues wound up in the Vatican because, again, Roman Catholic Church. So Pope Pius IX went through and demanded that all the statuary in the Vatican was castrated. I am not even lying.
Yeah.
And because all the sculptors went, we can't permanently deface all of these beautiful pieces of art. They artistically replaced the family jewels of these various statues with fig leaves.
Oh, so that's where the Dexter Lab joke came in. Off of Dexter Lab.
Well,
I doubt that, but I don't know which joke you're referring to, so that might be a thing.
Anytime a character
in
would get
Dexter's
naked
laboratory, every time a character was naked, he had like a fig leaf or something over the
cover his privates.
Yeah,
Name.
that probably is at least one of the influences that made the fig leaf the symbol of that. I think primarily it comes from like the Bible imagery of Adam and Eve eating the fruit and reaching for. I think in the original context it's supposed to be banana leaves or fig leaves to clothe themselves with.
Yeah.
But yes, they ran with that in the Middle Ages, and so no more statues with dongs because reasons.
But on the subject of art, there is something we talk about preconceptions, misconceptions. There is one middle topic that kind of goes in with this. Unfortunately, over time, it's one that's really lost its edge because it's a word that people throw, but really has no meaning in this day and age. But it's hypocrisy, and by that I mean we talk about art and nudity, and yeah, people always perceive certain showings of skin as that's porn. That's you see that like back with your fantasy movies or any fantasy book, like she's wearing a metal bikini. That's scandalous. But at the same time, these very beautifully drawn art pieces by master artists, mind you, at the time, not like we have that today, but we also go through like school. I know the school system has a whole other debate of topics, but
American educational system, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, but we go through art classes, and here they are showing us all these Renaissance pictures and all that. And I remember seeing plenty of nude lady pictures or pictures of the statues, like Aphrodite or all that.
Because the beauty of the human form is a thing. Who'd have thunk it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but we can see that. But oh no, these today pictures that it's not sexual in any way, but it's.
I have the same feeling about swear words. You guys do realize that 90% of the reason why swear words are considered as bad as they are is simply because every time someone hears them, they get all appalled and go, "Won't somebody please think of the children?" Whereas if we treated swear words like we treat every other fucking word in the English language, they would just be normal and no one would fucking bat an eye because they wouldn't have this horrible moral stink on them for no adequately explained reason.
It reminds me
I
of
noticed
that
a lot of the
episode.
think of the children things kind of. Sorry,
Most
Liz.
of it is
Yeah.
most of it
take
was
from like the
Slow down, guys.
Europeans
Slow
of
down.
high
I want to
society
hear what Leia has to
standards,
say.
but
It remind this talk about art and the hypocrisy reminds me of that very famous one of my favorite episodes of The Simpsons, Marge versus Itchy and Scratchy. Now Marge
Mhm.
in all
Oh,
her
no.
power, yes, she in all her power, because Maggie was watching Itchy and Scratchy and just started bopping Homer up the head. She said, "Well, I blame television. That's the problem." She goes on a crusade to get Itchy and Scratchy off the TV because of the violence that Itchy and Scratchy was causing. And everything is good and happy, and she's successful, and everybody applauds her. But then in Springfield is a statue of the famous David. And all the prudy parents come to Marge to tell Marge, you need to
Oh,
go.
a sexually exposed man. How dare we?
And Marge says, no, 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 don't censor that. That's art. And then people were like, wait a minute, aren't you Marge the Wacko that wanted Itchy and Scratchy banned? Yeah, but wait a minute. But you say it's okay for the kids in Springfield to look at the private equipment of David. So Marge was like kind of speechless. What's brilliant about that episode is it did call her out. She's okay
Yeah.
with one thing, but she wants to ban another.
Who?
And it's like,
Who?
you can't have it that ways.
He who is without scandalous art casts the first stone. Everyone's art is someone's scandal because we all. It's either everyone gets their thing or no one gets their thing, and unfortunately, I'd rather risk everyone getting their thing than no one getting their thing.
But the beauty, you're right. The beauty of that episode, not only Marge, but it really called out society. Here comes the censor people. You know, you want when they call, they want to censor a show or a comic book or TV show or everything because of violence in the children. But yet, when it comes to art and everyone is nude, as all of you have been brought out, and Dark is brought out, no, let the kids see that. Well, wait a minute, what's the difference?
And of course, the modern day version of this is the social justice mob with their, oh, beauty standards are haram. You can't inflict beauty standards on people. You can't inflict racial stereotypes on people. You can't, there's dozens upon dozens of things the SJW types do.
Isn't this like the same target audience for the reason why they had a giant sculpture of some random black lady in the middle of some city somewhere, except in order to actually do maintenance on her, you had to open the back of her pants and crawl up her hoo-ha.
I think I saw that. I think in the middle of Times Square, they had this huge statue, a very unflattering statue of a plus-size black woman.
Who doesn't exist, by the by. They just made her up.
Right. Oh. And if they thought we full-figured black women were cheering, we were not. We were not crazy about that at all.
And those that were talking about it, they were paid to talk about that.
My favorite review of that one, and it was one of the negative reviews, was she gave it a name. And it was like, she called it either Lashana. Let's just say it was Common Person A. Common Person A up here just looks like random slap woman just slapped onto the side of a street. Not really pretty, not really great. And you could have honored someone actually nice. No, you had to grab random bystander and then slug them onto the street.
Yeah, and one other thing,
lovely.
And one other thing I'd like to mention, that for one, I'd like to go back to like the whole thing with think about the children. Okay, you're using children are not your shields, okay? We are not your babysitters. That's your kid. Be parents, and if you don't want your kid to look at that, then keep your kid away from that and move on to other things. And don't blame us for that when we're not your babysitters. Shut the fuck up.
To follow up on that point, I remember being a kid, and I think this is a pretty universal thing that all kids go through. The one thing you don't like as a kid is kids' content, i.e., you don't like the things that supposedly pander to you. When I was a kid, the things that I liked were the things that I felt were just edgy enough where I shouldn't be watching it. Because kids tend to like being treated more like adults because they don't like living in a wallpapered world where nothing interesting can ever happen, and like they're mollycoddled and pandered to at every conceivable turn.
How you think
Most kids want to be treated like full-fledged, well-rounded human beings.
How do you think Mother 2 was conceived?
I was a prude as a kid, and then the first time I'd actually seen Dirty Dancing, it happened to be the 80 Tank Police, and how that thing got on the air. The cat ladies had T-shirts on. I'm like, I need an adult, and then I realized, wait, I got up at 3:00 in the morning, so I didn't have to share the TV. I could get in trouble if I called for an adult.
When I was young, I started reading Tolkien, so Tolkien in elementary school. So that wasn't too far for me.
I think when I was young, my first boo I saw was my fucking uncles. They were watching porn in front of me.
Oh my god! Oh well.
Going back to that statue real fast.
Mm-hmm.
You want to know the irony of that statue? It wasn't even made by black folk.
It wasn't. I think it was commissioned. The artist was black, but he's from Europe. He was British, and he was commissioned he was commissioned by these white liberals or white women, whatever you're going to call them, who they were.
Yeah, it's inevitable. Every time social justice tries to weaponize the victimhood of whatsoever demographic, it always winds up white. It always winds up with that victim cred somehow landing at the feet of white women because reasons.
Okay, I'm sorry for neoliberals. Yeah, that. Oh gosh, that.
Well, the artist confessed. I didn't come up with this. I didn't come up with this idea. They told me, and that was the thing that got me. These women told me to do this, and it was two white women that told him, "You have to do this the statue of this ghetto-looking black woman in the middle of Times Square." So he did not come up with the idea. He was paid and told to do that.
Victimhood of any given demographic, white rich women most affected. Every time.
I feel sorry for the artist because that client just sounds so boss.
They sound like social justice influenced Karens is what they sound like, which inevitably is every fucking time.
Here's my thing. I don't feel sorry for his ass no way because on the news, the motherfucker sounded so satisfied with his work. I mean, of course, he was paid to do. He's an artist. Of course, you gotta be satisfied with your art. But I'm like, homie, you know, I don't feel bad for him if you know, it's like good.
While we're talking about,
you got your money.
Sorry.
I'll congratulate you for making your money. I ain't gonna fault you for making money. Okay, it's hard out here for an artist. Okay, but bro, like the fact, like I said, people game recognize game. Okay,
yeah,
nobody ain't buying this shit. Number one, one made by black folk, commissioned by white folk, of course, and
rich white women every time.
And this is what they could come up with. This is how you uplift the black woman. And it kills me sometimes how black women want to call themselves black feminists or feminists and want to kowtow to these white women. And it's like, well, they don't have your interest at heart, and they definitely damn sure don't think highly of you. As a matter of fact, they look down upon you, if nothing else. Especially if they commission you to look like that, to represent you like that. Well, every time a white woman try to write you guys, this is what she thinks of you. Every single time. Sometimes they put glasses on you just to hide or distract.
But they have a whole body of quasi-intellectual theories to back them up, don't you know? So every given demographic, white rich women most affected. The perfect example of this was the reaction to the movie Get Out. Like, every social justice hack critic absolutely creamed themselves over Get Out I'm watching the movie and I'm like, you guys do know this movie is literally explicitly making the fuck fun of you and your need to appropriate everyone else's victimhood for your own fucking purposes.
Yes. Because, well, as a full-figured black woman, I did not like that statue at all. When I saw that, I was like, "So this is how you see me? This is how I'm supposed? This is what you think of me? You know, this is what you think of when you think of a full-figured black woman? That?" And I've been fighting that stereotype all of my life. You know, I've been trying to fight that stereotype, and it's an unflattering statue. She's in an unflattering top that is not flattering to her type, not flattering to her figure. Pants too low for her. The shirt is too short for her, and this is what you think. So whatever view you and I'm supposed to sit back and swallow that and say, "Yeah, power sisters, let's go on."
Why is
While we're here talking about misconceptions, let's knock over a few historical misconceptions of the aforesaid social justice bullshit. I will go first, and I will speak as a gay guy. According to feminist theory, according to modern day feminist theory, the reason why gay men also owe their victimhood to rich white women is because, according to social justice, the reason why gay people were oppressed throughout history was because they were acting too much like women, and therefore gay men should be included in the feminist church. When in actuality, if you actually read primary source documents and shit, the reason people hated gay men was because they were men who didn't get validation or weren't attracted to rich women. And lynching is very much a similar thing. People forget the sexual aspect of lynching. Lynchings most often happened when a rich white Southern belle was stooping the help, so to speak, and she didn't want to get disinherited from her daddy's money, so she claimed he raped her, even if it was consensual.
Lynching was a Me Too thing?
No, lynching was a sexual thing more than it was a racial thing. It just so happened that the majority of the victims were either black or Irish, because black and Irish people were in the undermentioned classes. And thus, when the rich white woman besmirched her own fucking sexual modesty, rather than admit to herself that she was just attracted to an Irish guy or a black guy, nope, he raped me, you can lynch him, it's fine. Derp. And this is the thing that bothers me the most about feminism, especially of the intersectional social justice kind. They reframe history so fucking hard, and they will frequently just believe the exact opposite of actual history, like the gay thing. Rather than acknowledge that the reason people hated gay people for all those millennia is because they don't love women hard enough, we have to reframe and recontextualize it so that gay men got in trouble for acting like women, and that's why we should include them in the fucking victimhood hierarchy. No, fuck you.
So they hated gay men because they got cock-blocked by sexuality?
No, they hate gay men, or they hated gay men historically because gay men don't love women, and a man is supposed to love women. It goes back to the whole bullshit that is the patriarchy thing in the first place. The patriarchy never fucking exists, or never fucking existed, because even though men had the overt power in a lot of social institutions, they were obliged to use that power for the sake of women and children. They weren't unilaterally advancing the cause of men in general, because that's the other thing. Men don't actually have a in-group preference. Men have an out-group preference. Men would rather spend time with women than with other men. But because feminism is entirely predicated on this bastardized idea of sisterhood that never fucking existed, they must project that onto all men, even though the end to which men's power was put usually was his wife or his daughters, or at a stretch his sons. But
Stop the presses. Hang on. This is my homeboy. What's up, Juju?
Mm.
That's a surprise. This is a surprise visit by him. Jesus Christ, dude! You came onto one of my shows. Holy shit, dude!
okay, but okay.
Continue what you're saying.
Now I remember what I was going to say. The thing with this whole patriarchy hypothesis of feminists is they believe that men always held power in society and that they were doing so for the advancement of like men or for the advancement of mankind. But in most cases, in most societies,
Which is kind of funny when you think about it, because
Don't
mankind
stop
is
him.
referring
Let him
to all of humanity.
well, yes, but I will get into what's known as the great gendered noun shift here in a minute. But back on point. The reason why men held official overt systems or positions of power is because official overt positions of power can be held accountable, whereas women throughout history were frequently known to have informal power. And the thing about informal power is that informal power can't be held as accountable as overt power can. I'll give you a hypothetical example. Let's say we're back in the medieval period, and the peasants are starving, and they've decided they're gonna dethrone and behead the king. The king is the one who winds up with his head in a basket. His wife, the queen, frequently survived to stoop the next guy on the throne and raise his successor. And yet somehow we're supposed to believe women had absolutely no power throughout all of history until 5 minutes ago, or whenever the person in question wants to focus on.
Mm.
What happened was women would have so much informal power that they wouldn't need formal power, especially not when people with formal power
Huh.
frequently had to bear the consequences of using that formal power, whereas informal power has only as many consequences as people in general are willing to give it. And as we all know, people are willing to let women off the hook for quite a lot of things.
Well, they're also trying to go on trust and merit.
Well, in theory, at least.
Well, considering preconceptions have been a evolutionary item that has been saved on brain power, saved on energy, was good for making split decisions, but was not very good at
Sure.
nuance.
Heuristics were useful back when in the original context they happened, but aren't quite as useful anymore because that circumstance has changed. But speaking of which, Final mentioned made me think of the great gendered noun shift. Do you guys know that the original word for a adult male human was actually were-man? It's where we get the prefix for werewolf or were creatures in general. Were-man means a man who can think. That's why the were suffix gets attached to various animals when we're talking about creatures that allegedly can shapeshift. The word for a adult female human was actually with man, from which we get the word wife. It meant help man or like nurturing man is what with man originally meant.
Okay.
The word for a child of any gender back in the day was actually girl. The word boy specifically was used for the classes of indentured servant and slave. But somehow we wind up in a world where the male human children are called boys, are called the word we used to use for slave, girls, female humans, maintain their word for child, we lopped the prefix off of the male human word entirely, and we changed with man into wolf man so that it was a man with a womb. I would also like to point out how common it is, especially in modern English, for a man who does a job to have that job affixed to his gender, as in fireman, policeman, etc., which basically epitomized linguistically the idea that men are only valuable for what they do. A man without a prefix means nothing. It means he's blank.
Ooh.
And does it surprise anyone to know that in a world where the word that used to be for, all mankind is now blank, we still hyperfixate on what men do rather than men having any sort of intrinsic value.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because now it's actually turned into a position of power, and there are now people obsessed with that, and that's why they always try to reword it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And they keep forgetting where it came from.
Well, or they don't know in the first place because people don't actually want to teach history as it happened. They want to teach the convenient narrative that makes us feel all warm and fuzzy. And or lets us emotionally blackmail other people into giving us gives because reasons.
I'm sorry. It just reminded me of the genealogy shows my mom watched, and they loved to point out that women were considered no better than slaves, but all it did is show that they had a lot more informal power since they didn't have a position of power, so to speak.
Precisely.
Even on their mind.
And let's staying with the theme of social justice completely shits the bed when it comes to historical misconceptions. Do you know why the actual rule of women can't formally on paper own property came about? It's because of this thing called debtor's prison. I bring this up. I bring this up because if a woman defaulted on her loans or a loan for a piece of property that she was renting, it was her husband who signed for it, and therefore her husband who would be called off to debtor's prison. It's one of those things where I guess your first knee-jerk assumption might be, oh no, women were prevented from owning property because reasons and derp. But when you actually look into the practical reason why it was set that way, it's because no one wanted to throw a woman into prison. So that they arranged the system such that her husband signed for everything she owned. That didn't mean she didn't have access to all the stuff she owned or all the stuff he gave to her. It just meant that if she overdrew his accounts, or if his household couldn't pay for shit, he would be hauled off to the clink while she would be left free to enjoy the stuff that she still had access to if she still had access to it.
Oh. Wow.
Yep. People don't think about that, and yet in the 1920s, with all of this, women can't own property, women deserve the right to vote, blah 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 blah. First of all, back in the day, hardly anyone had the right to vote because voter rights were restricted to landowners. And for another thing, this is yet another case of men have overt power, but it kind of backfired on them because of the actual reasons behind it. A man had an obligation to vote for his entire household, not just himself. And I don't think it's a stretch to imagine a world in which the woman mentioned to him, this is how you will vote. And like every man ever throughout history, he probably went, yes, dear. I'm not saying that happened all the time, but I am saying that it would be very surprising to me if no man was forced to vote along the lines of the way his wife wanted him to vote, because she, emotionally blackmailed them into it, because, we've all come
Yeah,
across the yes
Yeah.
here syndrome.
that's
Or the
been a
or
commonality.
yeah, or the Lady Macbeth syndrome might be a better way of putting it.
I was about to bring up something his Shakespearean, but my brain went to Othello for a minute there.
You haven't
And-
experienced the true Shakespeare until you've heard it in the original Klingon.
I I
As funny as that is, there is actually a pronunciation discrepancy between English in the time of Shakespeare and English as we speak it now, such that they're starting to revive Shakespeare in its original pronunciation.
Nice.
ooh.
Yeah, which can be a bit of a learning curve to try to actually memorize that, because you got to remember at least a lot of the stuff that they say in all of Shakespeare's plays. A lot of the
Well,
stuff.
and
Women
I,
with
I honestly really like the concept of original pronunciation, because in Shakespeare's time, a lot of the silent letters and contractions and shit that we have now, they would just pronounce the entire word as written. And honestly, as somebody who finds it annoying the way English is so inconsistent with its rules, there's a part of me that wishes we could just go back to the Shakespearean way of pronouncing shit, because that would mean no fucking arbitrary silent letters and no arbitrary secondary letters and shit.
Yeah. One misconception I do like to bring up, or rather, it's actually more so of a misconception in fiction,
You're a bit.
specifically in writing, and someone who is new to this, or at least as an aspiring storyteller, I've been hearing at least with two misconceptions with storytelling. The first one, the classical one, with that the villain has to be the hero of the story, which while it's one way to write a villain, it's a misconception, because that's the only way people write villains, when there's literally many other ways that you can write villains.
Do they mean the actual villain does everything evil, or how preconceptions change and yesterday's hero does things that
I think
be
what he's
very heroic?
talking
Like
about
you talk
is
about
the
the. Hold on, hold
I,
on.
I,
Like
I think what he's talking about is the wicked syndrome, where where the villain has to have some kind of sympathetic or misunderstood
I
reason
mean,
for
like
doing what they're
Greek
doing.
myth. Like you go back to the labors and stuff of Heracles, and some things he did during his quest weren't exactly very noble. Or even the one of the classics, Jason and the Argonauts. After Jason gets the
Well,
fleet,
because the Greek conception of the word hero meant more someone along the lines of someone who was very powerful, or who had a lot of glory. The
yeah, but
idea of a hero having a moral component to it is a very modern one that came about, I think, in the Victorian era specifically.
well, that's
That
yes, I
makes
understand that. I
sense.
mean, pretty much the preconceptions of what we from today's standards look at what is a
Yeah,
hero, and the
for
heroes of
for us,
yesterday of that time.
for us, heroism has a moral component. For the ancient Greeks, it had more of a capacity to do stuff or power component.
Yet the epics were always they for their heroes, they were always the idealized qualities of their society. And Ethel Dragon has a point, depends on which version you go off of.
True, but it is a well established fact that in the Greek conception of the term, a hero had more to do with power and glory than it did with morality. Which, I mean, to be fair, it's probably a good thing that the ancient Greeks didn't really draw their conception of morality from their deities, because
Yeah.
the obligatory Zeus is a hound dog joke goes here, etc.
Yeah.
But Zeus wasn't, one of the heroes. We're talking about like Heracles,
No,
Jason,
no,
Odysseus.
but in many ways it's a similar concept. The gods are to be respected because they have the most powers and abilities and so on. as opposed to what we would now think of as a moral component. Granted, the Abrahamic God is not particularly great on that front either if you don't do revisionist history on it, but that's another story altogether.
Well, mythologically and current religion-wise, anything you look back into it without the sugar coating and do the hard research on, none of them are really good.
Well, that, but also, I actually want to tip it more in the other direction. A lot of people have a very negative view of the past, like everyone before our generation was primitive, etc., and so on. But if you actually look into history, humans have basically operated like humans for at least the last 10,000 years.
And would you say this negativity stems from somewhere, like a specific grouping, or just a component of
I mean, there are a bunch of ideologies we could name that demonize the past, but I think on some level it's almost an instinctive drive to want to be better than your forebearers, even if you're not. For example, like we were just talking about, every generation throughout history has tried their damnedest to make life as good for their women as they can. The problem is that some of their ideas about how to make life better for their women end up looking oppressive by the standards of the next generation. Like Blackstone's formulation. He said something along the lines of, "We in the enlightened age of Charles II finally know how to treat a woman correctly." And you go back a couple hundred years before that, and there was another random statesman dude who was basically saying the same shit. Because one of the failings of the human race, I think, is we keep reinventing the same stuff and then forgetting that we did it. It is the problem. I think we would be better off as a society if we could remember, oh no, people have been people since the word go. Like we haven't become more enlightened than our forebears just because we live in a more technologically or socially advanced society. We just have the benefit of all of the people who came before us doing the same thing and frequently forgetting and then rediscovering the same thing over and over again.
If I could say for a minute, I'd like to just go back to when we talked about, Dark had brought it up. Both of you have points about, I do notice, and I may be shifting the topic here, but I didn't mean to, but I have to say,
That's fine.
we have noticed an uptick in villains being treated like heroes and heroes be treated like villains. Wicked is a good example.
The Wicked syndrome.
Yes, that's one of the reasons why I never liked that musical, and I never cared for the movie because I don't like how the Wicked Witch is portrayed as good and a victim, whereas everybody else, Dorothy and all they're all the bad. Those are the bad ones. And even with the Joker movie, he's a victim. It's not his fault that he's evil. And we're seeing
I'm
heavy uptick with that.
I'm of two minds on it because there is value to seeing it from another perspective. Like for example, I really did enjoy the Wicked novel. The Wicked novel is, I think, much better than the musical, actually. But that's neither here nor there. And Joker was a fucking masterpiece. Too bad Todd Phillips didn't get the memo and decided to break everything he made in the first one in the sequel. But I think there is value to seeing, there's an old phrase, there but for the grace of God go I. There is value in seeing the sort of fall from grace or the demonized person becoming the very demon that they were demonized into being. But the issue is, especially because of the way social justice lionizes victimhood and demonizes authority by sort of intrinsic definition, that has become the intellectual class's quote unquote favorite trick to pull. And I agree with you in the sense that it's overused significantly. I agree with you that it shouldn't be the only move people know how to play. Because aside from anything else, because villains who are just out to be villains are really, really fun to play. And in many cases, at least for me, when I was a kid, the most entertaining character in any given Disney movie was the villain because they were allowed to behave more like a human and less like a cardboard cutout. In the sense that Disney villains could be sarcastic, could be petty, could be out for bling or power, could be, there are aspects of the human condition that you can't really show in a Disney style hero, but that you can show in a Disney style villain, and that has the occasional side effect of sometimes the villain of the story is more entertaining and more three-dimensional and well-rounded than the hero is.
Okay, we haven't really heard too much out of Final and Humble, so how about you guys add to it a bit?
Well, some of the themes that Ethel Dragon had been pulling up is the fact that it took thousands of years now until people remembered Roman concrete. Hollywood always had to make a sequel to everything remotely successful. Oh, it's more than that. There was also spin-offs, cartoons, toys, eventually marketing it to kids because, well, kids buy things.
Although to be fair, that is not a modern problem. Speaking of misconceptions, Hollywood has always done adaptations of other media, like adaptations of plays, adaptations of novels. Like Hollywood has always been a very much adaptational medium. The issue of modern day remakes is not the remakes. The issue of modern day remakes is that they're shit.
Well,
If they weren't shit, it would not nearly be as bad.
Continue, Humble.
the thing I could actually add is that most of the things come underneath a few thinking traps. Basically, the one the SJWs like to throw around is confirmation bias, but there's also anchoring because it drags your judgment based on whatever first impression you got. And the stereotyping, which is preconception's ugly cousin. Like, slap a label on something. And the availability heuristic, which was a preconception often coming from whatever was memorable or vivid in one's head. And the halo effect, if your preconception is positive or negative about one trait, it spills over to everything else. That last one, is actually where a lot of bad writing comes from. Because, for example, conservative comedians have had plenty of comedic material because they have always met a far leftist, mostly your stereotypical white lady who wanted to slap some ugly woman statue in a New York City
Rich white
street.
hipster getting fat off of daddy's trust fund.
And yes, and by the time you meet them, they've gave themselves a monk tone shared because some Instagram clip said it was great. Or
Oh, dear.
you had that thing with the eyebrows that were
You go
grown
next.
long enough to be braided into a halo around the head.
Or the various dyed hair color motifs.
Or
Yes.
shaved
I gotta
head.
get into that one.
Yes.
I gotta
And
get into that
that's
one.
why lots of bad stories come from. A
Go
lot
ahead. After Humble.
Mhm.
Finish Humble.
And that's why look, long story short, I kind of go with what Ralt said. He was the author for Behold Humanity. Tropes and stereotypes are not a thing of beauty. They are a tool, and how you use them is how you make them effective. For example, the guy that was a good balance between the tragic backstory and the oh my gosh, this guy's out for blood was the villain in the Blue-Eyed Samurai, because as he was taking a clock and rebuilding it into a gun, he talked about how he was in the time when they were starving and he had reverted to a bit of cannibalism. But then when he said, I control my fate now, he had a finished gun in his hands.
Final.
What was I gonna say with this?
Take your time if you need to collect your thoughts. I'm sure you
Um,
have. I'm sure there's something that really grinds your gears a bit.
I
Or
think I
some,
rem- I think I remember what it is now. That the way to actually at least make your villain at least effective is how do you make your characters more effective in the story? And this comes in with the not just with the themes but the whole thing, because there's only like four things that go into how you actually execute themes properly, thanks to the Seas video, the YouTube channel called the Seas, where it's basically I hold it like this when I first came onto the show with the first elevator pitch of Light and Darkness, and even still writing about this and learning about this now, that I even hold up to this principle that
Yeah.
your characters are the story. Because think of it this way, your story is the stage. So then how do you get the story going from beginning to till it reaches the destination, which is the end? You have your characters interact with the stage in order to do that. So they're your actors on the stage.
Mm.
Hmm.
Let me add something to the whole villain story thing, movement, whatever, what have you. What grinds my gears about that whole thing, it's not just the fact that they tend to besides the fact that they tend to admire the villains a lot more than they should. It's just the fact that they're creating caricatures surrounding them to justify their villainy to some degree. One of the examples being the Maleficent movie and
Mm.
sequel, but specifically the first movie had me seething when it was done because there was never no nuance between the King
Stefan.
Stefan and Maleficent. There's never there like they really forego their backstory, tell this sort of pseudo lesbian storytelling between her and Aurora. So apparently, older
What?
women and younger women dating
Well,
each other is
and th-
fine, but God forbid she gets awakened by a kiss from a prince.
What?
yeah,
and
that
Maleficent is actually a really good example of why not every villain needs the Crybaby Doofenshmirtz backstory.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because Maleficent was a much more interesting and fun character in the original because she knew she was evil and she reveled in it, and her
She was
joy
a
was
fae.
infectious.
She
It
was a
is
beautiful
it,
fae.
it is the thing, and again, there is utility to the Doofenshmirtz effect, if you will. But if it becomes your own, if it becomes the only tool
Mm-hmm.
in your toolbox, then you're at whack. Um,
It's
in
like
addition to in addition to writing misconceptions, one of my least favorite misconceptions that the modern day art school uh, mentality drills into people is themes and commentary over everything, and even to the point of demonizing anyone who cares about things like in-universe logic, character consistency, or like consistent world building. That,
uh,
that that's
Yeah,
that's
that.
that's probably my least favorite aspect of the modern day
let
art
me give you
school
another
thing is
example real quick.
themes over
Right.
everything
Let me
bullshit.
give you a better example. A better example of a villain story or a villain protagonist, like Yagami from of course manga and anime. Death Note. Yes, I'm using the anime and manga argument. Sue me, but that's the best I can come up with on the top of my head. Is like Yagami being the fact that what makes him dangerous and a villain is the fact that he goes above and beyond to get rid of people that stand in his way to exact justice, even though there are people that probably share his ideals, but have their own way of doling out the justice. People who are just as good, not better, but good at him, and ruin out the villains. Had he side with them in such a way and play them in such a way with that brilliant mind of his, he probably wouldn't have to always have to think to get rid of them. Because
Well,
then that, in my opinion, defeats his views on justice. If you're punishing good people as well, like what is your conception of justice at this point like?
well, as Ryuk mentions to him, even if you get rid of all the murderers, all the rapists, all the other assorted ne'er do wells, there will still be one left because you're the one holding the metaphorical knife. Um,
Yep.
in my opinion, the smart thing for Light to do would be to write his own name and his own circumstances of death in the Death Note, so that way that issue is no longer an issue. But there's a lot of problems with the later part of Death Note after L dies
Yeah,
because
we all
the
agree.
the you
Yeah.
I the thing I loved the most, or that I loved the most about Death Note, was the universe itself didn't really have a moral element to it. So it was one genius versus another genius playing essentially chess. But after L died, because the writer couldn't think of a better way for Light to conspire at his own destruction, which is what I would have had him do, have him win and then actually live with the consequences of winning, which aren't actually all that good. Um, but rather than have him win by his own merits and then realize what he wanted wasn't what he wanted, they basically gave Nier Deus Ex Machina powers so that she could win, even though nothing in universe made her deserve to.
Yeah, like, and this is even played out in the Japanese versions of the movies and the Death Note musical where L dies, but then Light later dies shortly after anyway. So then Nier and Mello are cut out.
Which would have which would have been such a more satisfying ending if Light won and then realized there were repercussions of winning that he didn't see. Honestly, what I would have had happen if it were me, I would have had Light beat L and then realize that nobody else can challenge him and then go insane from the lack of challenge. Kind of like what they kind of tried to do with Azula in the end of Avatar: The Last Airbender, although that was obvious. That would have
Yeah.
also could have been better handled. But the idea of um, when the person who's evil wins, and then they realize that they didn't really know what they were going to do after they won, or winning has an unforeseen consequence. To quote Plankton, I never really thought I would get this far. I don't know what to do now. Um, that kind of story, especially for something like Death Note, where prior to L dying, the universe didn't really seem to have a moral skin in the game of its own. Having Light win and then realize he thrived off of L's challenging him, and now that L's gone, there's no one left to challenge him, and life is boring and miserable. And then maybe have him go insane from that boredom, and then conspire at his own destruction. That's how I would have ended Death Note.
Now that makes the
Still.
dark ending of Life Alive make all the more sense.
Mm. And again, maybe I have a pre-established bias for that resolution type because, like I said, one of my favorite episodes of SpongeBob growing up was the one episode where Squidward actually got everything he wanted and then realized that he didn't want it after all.
Yeah.
Rather than have the universe enforce some kind of repercussion onto him, he got what he wanted. It just turned out that what he wanted that wasn't all it was cracked up to be.
Yeah.
Oh God, I'm now cycling back to Arcane season 2 and its conclusion. Really, that
Mm.
season that season was obviously not written by the original writer.
I've never seen Arcane. I tried once. I watched the first episode and I could not get into it.
It's okay.
I never really got into the franchise. I'm more of a pro character
A
myself.
leaker. No, it's one half is great. The other half is clearly written by people who really want to ship the characters so badly, and that was mostly what they were focusing on, shipping characters.
Which, okay, here's another modern day writing misconception that I hate so much. If you want the audience to like a character pairing or a couple, you have to do the same thing you have to do with a straight couple and actually have them love each other and have them be likable characters so that you want to see them be happy together. I am so as a gay guy, I am so sick to death of modern day writers deciding that because two characters are gay, they automatically end up together, but write no romance subplot to actually explain, okay, how do they fall in love? What's their character dynamic like? Are they likable enough characters that I want to see them happy in the fucking first place, etc.?
Hey, Doc,
That should be the
am I
rule
right
for
back there?
every romance story, whether the couple is straight, gay, or anything in between.
You doing all right back there, Doc?
Yeah, I'm just here. But
Look,
you know,
That is one of the reasons why I got into the more adult books instead of the shipping wars.
Yeah,
I'm about to wrap
the
it up,
Reddit
so-
shipping wars really, even before Arcane, really started with the later seasons of Legend of Korra as well.
Well, I mean, the shipping wars began on Tumblr, not Reddit, to be fair.
Uh,
Yeah,
That's true.
they
Tumblr.
were
true.
both bad. But one, since it's getting to that hour, one big misconception, preconception, if we go with writing and stuff, since we talked about everything, and let's hear from everybody else. And Dalton, sorry, we'll finish with you on that, since I know you like to have a paragraph's worth to say on this, likely. But
A little bit of passive aggressive, are we, Humble? Or Dark?
Dark, yeah,
Mhm.
he's
But
like that.
the
Passive aggression.
one old writing thing that's kind of been mixed, has preconceptions, misconceptions, criticized, but yet a lot of people, especially the aforementioned SJWs, etc., like to cling to, is utopias. We get it in various stories, various mediums. People are often criticizing them or praising them. Even since we started with Superman, Krypton is like this ideal utopia that we need to strive to, but need to just forego all the flaws it had. You get all that crap. But we'll start with you, Wolf. Like, what's your takes on the preconceptions, misconceptions of utopias?
I'm just sick to death that they have this how would you call it? This imagine this imagined journey. They're on this little pilgrimage of trying to walk up the mountaintop to try to find a perfect world, and the only people that the only reason why they haven't reached it yet is because people who don't align with their ideas or religion or creed is holding them back, when all they have to do is just build it themselves elsewhere where you can find maybe fertile ground or suitable land for you to build that utopia that you so desperately want. Another thing that I'm getting sick and tired of is that that they have it in their mind that if they're going to have this utopia, right,
Mm-hmm.
they want to spread it around like it's a virus, like basically convert everybody to this way of thinking where if everybody think just like them, now we finally have achieved utopia. When
The
really
greater good.
you don't need to have your utopia that big anyways. As a matter of fact, small pockets of communities can thrive thrive on their own, and that's already utopia in itself. It's flawed, but if it's thriving, there's your utopia there. You know,
Hmm. Okay,
this
Leia.
idea of they always
Oh,
have this.
sorry,
I'm not done yet. Sorry. They
sorry.
just have this mysticism about it that they're so focused on, and it drives me nuts how they're still. And here's another thing when they also speechify the utopia thing. There's always this
Sorry.
there's always this loser speech about it, but yet we have not reached that utopia yet, for we are still shackled down by the chains of oppression. No, you're not.
Oh,
Just, just a few more bodies, we
sorry.
promise.
Sorry. Hello, have you seen our Lord and Savior, Utopia McQueen?
Who's next, Dark?
Go on, Leia. We'll go Leia, then Final, and then Humble, since she's the writer, so she'll have something to say from a narrative context. And then Dalton, if Dom wants to say anything, he can always hop on and say something.
Um, oh goodness. Oh, Dark. I don't know if this is what you're looking for, but I have to use this as an example. I gotta go still with the superhero theme. I read for the upcoming Fantastic Four. It's set in the 60s, but it's an they said it's an idealized view of the 60s. So the 60s that we know is not what they're going to portray. So there won't be any civil rights movement.
Retrofuturism.
Yeah, but that thank you. Thank you.
Hmm.
And they're going with that. And it's interesting that I personally, I mean, it may work. It doesn't sound too bad, but I was hoping that they would take the same formula that it worked for Captain America: The First Avenger, just set it in their proper 60s time, because we know for a fact that for Doomsday they're going to come to this age. But it is interesting how a retro. I don't know if this is what you were looking for, Stranger, but it is kind of utopia-ish. If I'm wrong, somebody correct me. But it does come across as
Keep going.
utopia-ish for the film, the way
A
they're describing.
utopia as imagined by the World's Fair. That used to be a thing.
Right. Yeah, that's what they're going for. So they're saying that Disney is saying that this is not the 1960s that we know. This is a futuristic, idealized version of what the 60s is. So it's kind of like the Jetsons meet Mad Men. I think that's the best way I can describe it, where people are more invested in space travel and math and science than ever before. So I don't know if that's what you're looking for, Stranger. The only thing I can
Well,
say,
that's fine. Any utopias are pretty much anything where all the world's issues are mostly dealt with. We're all happy and better, or in certain contexts, like when we talk about feminists, a lot of their ideas is worlds without men, or where the men is a subclass and the women have all the power, but
oh yeah,
everything's happy and good and better. That's
yeah,
utopian. Even
That was
retrofuturism.
Barbie.
The
Yeah.
greater good.
Yeah, that's literally the Barbie movie.
But that's essentially utopias. Even in retrofuturism, they make the past like it went a different branch and everything's better. There were no, the 60s. There's no Vietnam. There's no
right.
Korea War.
Well,
There's no,
Bridgerton, black
in,
people are rich and wealthy and
yeah,
royalty.
in many ways, futurism itself is utopian because the assumption of every futurist is one day we will solve all the problems we have now and there will be no other problems as a result of it.
yeah.
Therefore, society will just progress in a linear or exponential fashion and we don't need to figure out how we get there.
Okay.
Who's next?
I looked at Ethereal. It's me next, but
Yeah, go
one
for
thing
it.
real quick. I looked at Ethereal Dragon's comment saying Pedro Pascal's a poor man's Antonio Banderas. He wishes he's Antonio Banderas.
He's a
There's,
poor man's George Lopez. I think you're giving him a little bit too much credit there, Ethereal.
yeah, he wishes he's Antonio Banderas. But anyway, on the subject of utopias, like it's one way if you want to have a setting in a future where it's set in somewhat of kind of ideal world. Like you already mentioned, like Krypton, saying like it's this looks utopian, but yet it's also but yet the people of Krypton like somewhat like the Council of Krypton, I think that's what they're called, where they've just grown a bit complacent. But Jor-El saw the warning signs, but yet they just refused to listen to that. But yet it was right in front of their faces that it is dying, which is why he sent his son.
Yes.
But because the thing is with utopias, you're never going to achieve that, no matter how hard you try, because
But it's just a few more dead bodies and gulags away, don't you know?
and that's one other problem. That's one of the problems. But the other problem, and it's a big one, humanity is rather flawed in what they would do. Because, like, happiness, I stated this before in one of the streams, I forgot what it was, that happiness is not a state of being. It's just something that does happen to you, and it comes from you if you do ever want to make yourself happy. But even then, you're gonna have downsides in your life, because that's bound to happen.
Okay. Humble.
Utopia and dystopia are two sides of the same coin. One just happens to be optimistic. The other one is pessimistic.
Mm.
A guy that has probably been writing that a lot since I could remember is Kurt Vonnegut. Harrison Bergeron was supposed to be utopia, where everyone is average. Until Harrison Bergeron introduced culture by making people take the handicappers off. He died. And everyone watched. Nobody reacted. Because they were too plugged in to notice.
That is true.
And an anime example of a utopia that is disguised as a bit of a dystopia had been the anime Appleseed.
Yes.
It had everything that you needed with sickness gone, world peace, subclass of robo-citizens who look perfectly human. And the one thing that turned everything on its head is they now knew how to reproduce. And then you throw in a soldier who was used to war on top of all that. You're basically reliving the episode of Squidward where he got to find his utopia in that neighborhood of fellow squids. Until he went insane with a leaf blower and blew himself out of there.
The only good Squidward torture episode, because he actually got what he deserved for once, instead of
Wasn't there
having the universe smack him upside the head for it.
I'll give you
So
one
the
misconception.
story where to keep everyone happy and one person had to suffer for them all.
The Giver.
Yeah, that
The
one.
Giver. The
Giver.
receiver of memory is the guy you're thinking of there.
Yep.
Another utopian anime to go off with Appleseed that's kind of worse when you realize it would be like Psychopaths.
Oh
Mhm.
no!
Hmm.
Fucking psychopath! Jesus Christ!
Great, now I know what a Blade Runner-esque future would look like if it were utopia.
Oh no, psychopaths.
The thing that
See,
made
psychopaths. See, with Blade Runner, they retire their machines. Psychopaths, if you sweat one gland one time, that's almost a boost in your crime coefficient. If you even have a minor tick in your heart, that's suspicion of an uptake in crime coefficient. You can barely breathe in that world in Psychopaths. Without
Well,
them
the same way you
thinking-
can't even survive in the world of JoJo due to all the absurdly amount of powers that there are.
No,
Not
no.
just
The
the
thing in
stance.
Psychopaths is they monitor your brain chemistry and everything, and if certain parts of you say they even show prisons where if you like art, well,
Mhm.
your chemistry goes to a certain degree because you like art and you like the creative process, and that makes you dangerous. And thus, as such, you get locked away or you get put into a
JoJo is not a
correction
good
facility.
comparison. JoJo is a superhero world, if nothing
Yeah,
else.
and if you
Psychopaths is, I'm telling you, Psychopaths is way worse than Blade Runner because at least in Blade Runner, you have a slight chance to live your life as long as you can in that world without them getting suspicious of whether or not you're a replicant. Like there's things you can do that is technically human that can have you pass off as human at best. At best, and the only way they can be sure is to put you in a test, right? Psychopaths, you are constantly monitored every day. Exactly.
It's
Ethereal.
the it's
It's
the
well,
ultimate
you say
on
no,
it's
steroids.
I'd
the
say
ultimate
Demolition Man.
it's the ultimate panopticon essentially.
Yeah,
Ugh.
and it's run by well, that's a spoiler if you haven't seen it, but I didn't like the series. It was hard to get through, especially with the main character and her stupid weird hair thing that annoyed the hell out of me. But essentially, yeah, that is a horrible utopian idea, and it's last I heard, they're still kind of pushing by expanding globally past the nation of Japan, and it's taking hold. And it seemed like, oh well, this is going to work no matter what. Like,
Yep.
ugh.
That would implode if everyone were like Florida Man.
I should have stopped. I should have stopped when my friend was watching it for the first time. I should have stopped the moment Homeboy went. He basically just turned to a blood splat, and I was like, "This is this literally the first anime where I actually have to stop because it was too much gratuitous violence?"
Mm,
And
Hmm.
I'm the guy who actually took time, who actually really went out of his way to watch and read Berserk, and I
Hmm.
asked that question. I also read Goblin Slayer, and I asked that question about Psychopaths. Is that literally the very first anime where I said, "Okay, I draw the line"?
We found Wolf Threshold, folks. It is apparently psychopath.
I think he was
Just
having
follow no further.
I think he was having like a mid what do you call it?
Not a midlife crisis. It's just the fact that on one hand you have monsters out that will murder, rape, and eat your ass in a world where everything is possible because human thought it up. On the other, you have Minority Report on steroids, and that's the story that I drew the line on because some dude went to pieces because
He
some
tapped
dude
out,
blew him up
folks.
with a
That's where
gun.
he tapped out.
Right?
Like it's there's a crisis with another name to it, but what's it called? It's not midlife crisis. I forgot what it was.
I'm like,
Like when
police
you know
officers
when
with
it's
a
too far.
gun that will blow you up just by firing
If
at you.
your criminal
That's
passes
why
over 300,
not psychopaths, crime coefficiency.
mhm.
To be fair, people will endure horrible, horrible philosophy concepts if there's a good guy fighting them.
Shoot, I almost another anime I almost quit on.
which one?
Dead Man Wonderland.
Yeah, that one is very graphic.
Hang on. Let me tell you why. It's only because I kept going because now I knew the context. But before the context, I was gonna quit on this anime because they were being so fucking unjustifiably and maliciously evil to that little kid until I realized they set them up. I was like, oh motherfucker, I gotta watch now. I gotta keep watching.
Have you watched Redo of Healer yet?
Nope, don't want to.
I
do I.
watched the episodes and decided to skip it and go straight to the manga.
The premise is just so weird and so just
Yeah. It's
It,
I was
basically
gonna say because if Psychopaths is where you tap out, then you might want to avoid Redo of Healer because it gets like
I just don't like things like Shield Hero that much or Redo Hero. Because things like that in that premise just don't really grab me. I'm still debating on whether I want to watch Overlord. Because
Yeah.
that one I would suggest you give a try. Overlord is really good, honestly.
Log Horizon, you know.
I'm
But
still waiting for the second half of the Magi Sinbad spinoff to be a thing. God damn it!
For reals, dude. When is Maya gonna continue? Jesus.
but let's
I was digging
continue on the final stuff. Dom, you want to say anything? Really, Dom? That's interesting. That's great stuff.
if he has a paragraph in the private
Bravo,
chat.
Dom. Okay.
Redo
Dom,
Healer
what's
is
your
what would
take on
happen if I Spit on Your
preconceptions and
Grave was a
misconceptions?
revenge fantasy story.
Yeah, if you want redo of a healer but better, just go watch Sweeney Todd the Demon Barber of Fleet Street.
No. You watch I Spell on Your Grave, the original. That's what you watch. That
Okay,
or Female Prisoner 701 Scorpion.
Classic.
I mean, Redo of Healer makes Sweeney Todd look like Sound of Music, basically.
But go on, Dalton. What's your long take on misconceptions and preconceptions of
Oh, because I
utopia?
can apparently speak now when it suits dark. God damn it!
Yes,
Oh, stop
you
it.
have
Stop
permission.
it, both of you.
Fuck off. But in any case, my paragraph on utopias,
Oh,
considering
did I
that
say
that's where
paragraph? I mean
we
essays.
were,
My bad.
we were.
Be nice.
Are you done?
A little for now.
So good.
Okay. My 2 cents and 3 paragraphs on utopia is utopia has, broadly speaking, 2 problems. One problem is the idea that the greater good trumps the circumstantial good, and the other is the relationship between ends and means. The greater good issue, the proposing greater good as alternative to incidental good, is wrong because good is not like the shelves in an electron. Good is cumulative, meaning if you want something resembling a utopia, you need to make sure that each individual increment of good and everyone's individual good is satisfied. If you try to sacrifice people's individual circumstantial good on the altar of the greater good, you will always wind up in something that resembles hell, because good is not hierarchical, good is cumulative. The best way to make a utopia is to allow everyone as much freedom and as much pleasure as they possibly can pursue on their own merits. The second issue with utopias is the relationship between end and means. There is never a circumstance where the ends justify the means. And we know this because in most circumstances, you don't even know that the means. In a world where the ends actually justify the means, you stop noticing the means. Like, for example, if I decided that I wanted a glass of milk right now, I could get up and I could walk out to the kitchen and I could get that glass of milk. I would not have even noticed the means of, the biological energy it would take to get to that glass of milk because there is no moral imbalance there to draw my attention to. The only time you notice the means is when the ends categorically are not justified by said means because the means make your stomach churn, as they probably should, because in most cases where someone wants the ends to justify the means for the sake of a greater good, it's because their definition of the greater good is, well, if we just unpersoned all of these vegetables over here and we throw them in a gulag and then burn the gulag down when they're all dead, it will just be perfect. said no one successfully ever because
Soylent
you
Green is people.
yeah you
Fine,
can
maybe except for like Joseph Stalin, probably.
you cannot uh, make the greater good opposed to the incidental circumstantial good. If you want something that mostly resembles a utopia, you maximize the circumstantial incidental good at the expense of the greater good if you absolutely must, frankly. Because the best good is one in which people can function as individuals and create their own definition of the good because no one else can central plan from the top down what other people will find good. The best world is a world in which we each had our own little pocket dimension and could maximize that pocket dimension into whatever our individual definition of good would be. But no central planning bureaucracy or panopticon is ever going to accomplish that because it prioritizes the greater good over the incidental good, and it prioritizes ends rather than means, neither of which will ever bear any positive fruit whatsoever.
Dom has also posted a comment in the private chat. When I think of works of fiction or people that challenge one's preconceptions and or misconceptions on are Zootopia and Beastars. The latter does it better than Zootopia due to the mangaka actually taking the two to places the Disney movie couldn't or wouldn't do.
My favorite interpretation of Zootopia is the one where it's actually an allegory for men's issues. I'm not even kidding. There is a video on the Honey Badger Radio YouTube channel entitled "Is Zootopia About Men?" And I believe it was Allison Tiemann over at Honey Badger Radio who proposed the idea that Zootopia is about men. And I thought about it for a second, and that is now my favorite interpretation of Zootopia. Because what is the defining factor in Zootopia? Predators and prey. And who do we know gets default shoved into the predator role and default shoved into the prey role? That would be men and women, respectively. If you view Zootopia as the predators being an allegory for men and the prey being an allegory for women, it makes perfect sense.
Jesus.
Ethereal Dragon. Since Dom doesn't want to play the Marvel Superheroes TTRPG, I should make you all play with Dalton. Which one?
No. Because apparently Dark doesn't like me, and I don't want to subject him to that.
It's okay.
No, I said Ethereal Dragon. He said that in the comments.
Don't worry, we're still breaking you in. So I thank you everybody for being here. Those 7 of you or 6 of you, 5 of you now, and those non-existent motherfuckers keep popping in and out. My boy Juju just showed up out of nowhere, and I'm happy today. Today he made my day. Tomorrow we're talking about the Flash of Superman animation. I haven't constructed that yet, but it is happening. We'll be talking about the Flash of Superman on the eve of the release date of James Gunn's Superman.
It's already out. Though.
Yeah, it's already out right now.
Mm-hmm.
No shit, it's fucking opening night tonight.
Which is always weird. It always bugs me now that they say specifically this date, but it comes on the night of the day before the official release.
Not to mention there were people watching it on Tuesday because of Prime doing a promotion or whatever the fuck.
That's true.
Like the early access stuff.
Not to mention the critics who got it several days before that even.
Mm-hmm. Fucking cheaters.
It's business.
But that's why we're doing it. That's why we're talking about the one of the best Superman content that we had thus far up until Superman the animated series, and later media, of course. But yes, we're going to talk about the Flash animation of Superman.
Superman saves the day so he can pound Lois's can.
Oh my goodness.
Oh dear.
And next week on Thursday, we'll be tackling another one of Dom's weird topic picks. The three
Assuming
R's.
you can actually get one together this time.
I'm surprised we were able to actually give some examples tonight. Jesus,
Yeah,
I think he enjoys challenging us, giving us
yeah,
something that.
Dom. In the future, please define your terms so we know what we're supposed to be talking about, please.
No, I think he do. I think he do that shit on purpose just to see us flounder deep down.
Maybe he just wants to get
Or
us.
maybe he just overlooks a detail and he forgets.
He wants to
Mm,
expand our minds.
Life.
Right, but
Before we
Find
more
a
close,
way.
constructive mind expansion could be had if he defined his terms better. Is what I'm saying.
True.
I'm going to say this really quick before we close. We didn't touch on this. Maybe we didn't need to. But I just want to say I was going to mention one more misconception, and that is the misconception of how Hollywood sees pop culture. Hollywood looks down on pop culture. Pop culture are like servants, and Hollywoods are the elites. I don't know if you
Yeah,
guys noticed that, but I get tired of actors like, oh, I don't do the comic book movies or science fiction or anime, or I don't do those types of movies. And I'm
a
just
a
so
great
sick of
example of
that.
what you're talking about, Leia, is the Oscars. It
Mhm.
flummoxes me that
Yeah.
never since my lifetime has there been a box office blockbuster that wins Best Picture, even though there are dozens that probably deserve to. And it goes back to my usual disdain for like the modern day art school mentality. This idea that, oh, if we actually please the audience and have them enjoy themselves when they go to the movies, well, that's not real art. That's just the blockbusters that we do so we have extra
That's just
money to do our
popcorn.
pretentious art school hackery.
Well,
Yes.
also, right quick, the one thing is, like politics, we also allow people, certain individuals, to be the arbiters to voice how
Mm,
we should perceive pop culture. And this
indeed.
also affects how Hollywood takes things and abuses it and gets away with it.
And that's why Hollywood is dying, because they're relying upon hacks who themselves were educated by hacks.
It's why a lot of things are dying because the common man just isn't doing anything. You'll get plenty who say, "We have to do something. We have to do something. We got plans. We got everything." But
How
then in the
many
end, they don't
Hollywood
really
do you
do
think's
anything.
on the Epstein list?
Hmm?
Probably
Enough
most.
that the Globe and then the Inquirer, enough that the tabloids are making bank on them. I
Enough
can say
that enough that they tried to get him to kill himself and him.
Anyways, we're doing that, and of course, we're going to conclude, or at least continue our review of reboot, moving into season 3. And oh boy, that's going to be quite the season. Of course, an episode has convinced me to go even further than that. Yes, we're definitely going to be doing season 4 reboot. This is going to hurt, isn't it, Dart?
Yeah, a bit. Mostly at
Motherfucker.
the end game. That ending stuff just really left a sour note. But we'll get there.
Coming up down the road, I believe we are going to tackle some more animation coming up. We're definitely going to fill the slots of the animation spotlight. Um, Somewhere down the road, we're going to tackle another movie spotlight and get to the ones that's been weighing heavily on our minds in late fall. Kaiju number 8.
Mm.
yay!
There we go. Finally,
Sound like
boys.
the Pizza Planet aliens.
No,
Yay!
whoa. The claw. No, let me stop. You distracted me. Huh?
The
Finally.
LGMs, the
Yeah.
little green men.
Anyways, so we're tackling that. We're gonna tackle some obscure animations in the future. I've been really been thinking about talking about these obscure animated movies. If I can get my hands on a means to watch them for Leia herself, and of course I think we only get something for her to be on board as well. something that's gonna whet her appetite.
Maybe some Studio Ghibli films?
It's not anime. It's not anime related. It's movie related. Yeah.
Sweet Home Alabama.
No.
We'll see. Like you said, I'm not that heavy into the passion of anime as the rest of you are.
It's not anime related. It's definitely both animation and movie related. So I'll think of something.
Monkey
I have to go
Bone.
to work.
No.
Huh?
No, Dark. No.
Said animation, and the only one that comes to mind is like Who Framed Roger Rabbit or Cool World.
Yeah, well, I love Who Framed Roger
We may cover
Rabbit.
those in the future. I'm
And
trying to
in
think
the
of anything
holograms
else.
episode.
Anyways, we're gonna be here all night circling around ideas. We might as well start.
Outros.
Yes. The Authenticator.
Hi everyone, I am the Authenticator. I do 2 shows weekly, or at least I try to do 2 shows weekly. One is called the Podcast The Storm. It's a geek news and politics roundup stream I do with a brainstorm of pop culture. The other is called The Duality of Man. It's a men's rights and men's issues show. I also do a comic book based show with Dom over on Englantine's channel called What You're Reading. We actually didn't get a chance to this week because I completely forgot it was Monday. But if you want more of my weirdness, which apparently Dark doesn't, please go and find your way to either of those things. But until then, I will see you guys in the next one. Cheers, guys.
The
Cheers.
Hound of the South, Donnie Powell. I'll speak for him. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for tonight's episode of The Real Millennials. Next week, we'll be talking about works of fiction dealing with health and fitness, on top of going over our individual experience with the two. Not to mention that what led to the decline of those standards, in addition to said standards coming back. The Sound of the South.
Yay.
The Sound of the South, Dominic Powell. And remember, cynicism and whatever that shit he says.
Cynicism is
Cynicism and nihilism are for
From-
losers.
Yes,
And make sure you keep
yeah.
up the good fight and keep hope, idealism, and optimism alive in the world.
Well, damn. You want to kiss his ear and suck his dick too?
My God.
Remember
Gotta
that shit
leave
word
room for Star for that.
I don't swing that way, dingus.
I do, but Dom isn't my type. Is the problem.
God.
With that lion's mane on his chin, I thought you would, man. Anyways, the
Asshat.
Sixth Ranger, Dark Ranger.
Hello, and thank you for having me tonight. This was a fun, chaotic discussion that we hammed out somehow, but thank you all the same. Looking forward to the next one.
The lovely Leia Valley plus size.
Hello, everyone. This is Leah Plus Size, your lovely lady of valor, and thank you for hanging in there and joining us in this very vivid and colorful discussion about conceptions. I hope you enjoyed the conversation we have. Please, if you like, leave in the comments below anything on your mind about what we discussed tonight. I'm sure Wolf will very much appreciate your comments. I think I'm sure he will welcome them. And also, like and share this conversation with your friends, anyone you know. Leave us honest background noise. They may hear something from us that might jolt their interest. I'm sure Wolf will love that. So until again, everybody take care, and we will see you next time.
The Humble Zariah's Humble Marty.
Hello, I am Humble Marty. Thank you for coming to our show. I'm glad we were able to hammer out a preconception thing and it didn't involve talking about what preconception like is in a other definition I should not answer or will be wildly off topic. So thank you for being here today. This is Humble Marty signing off.
The Warrior of Light, Combat Fan 12.
Well, that about does it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like what you saw, click like and subscribe and share with your family and friends. And make sure to ring that notification bell, that way you get notified of our latest videos. Once again, thank you guys so much for watching. This is Final Fantasy Fan 12 signing off. And remember, may the light forever shine upon us.
And
That's
now we'll hit that beautiful musical demon footage.
Oh,
This is your Welcome Commander Wolf Fan. Remind you guys once again that you are the UN Spacey. Welcome to the Wolf Fleet. And always tune in.
Big smiles, everyone. You beat the bad guy.
What a lot of fun. You guys have been real swell. And there's not a one who can say this ended well. All those secrets you've been concealing, say you're happy now. Once more with feeling. Now I gotta run. See you home.